There is a blessing moving toward you right now. One you prayed for so long ago, you may have forgotten you ever asked God for it. But He didn't forget. Heaven doesn't lose track of your prayers. Not a single tear, not a single whisper, not a single desperate moment you brought before God ever goes unnoticed. And today, as you listen, I want you to open your heart, because you're standing at the edge of a divine answer that has been years in the making. You didn't know it back then, but when you prayed that prayer, you planted a seed that needed time, protection, growth, and the right season to bloom. There were moments in your life when you wondered if God even heard you. There were days you wanted to give up, not just on the prayer, but on yourself. But even in those silent moments, when you were exhausted, disappointed, or numb, God was working. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, carefully, intentionally. You prayed that prayer from a place of pain, or maybe from a place of hope. Maybe you were alone in your room, tears on your face. Maybe you prayed it while walking, or sitting in a bus, or lying awake at night. You thought it was a small prayer, but it wasn't. To God, it was a thread tying your future to His promises. Time passed. Life changed. People came and left. Your heart broke and healed. You changed in ways you never expected. And in this journey, somewhere along the way, you stopped praying that prayer. Not because you didn't want it anymore, but because life became too heavy, too loud, too overwhelming. But God didn't stop. He continued shaping the answer. He didn't forget. He didn't delay because He was ignoring you. He delayed because He was preparing you. Think back for a moment to what you were like when you first prayed that prayer. Were you ready for the answer then? Were you mature enough? Healed enough, strong enough, stable enough? Sometimes God doesn't say no. He says, not yet. You're growing into the person who can carry this blessing. There were closed doors you didn't understand, relationships that fell apart without explanation, opportunities that slipped away, unexpected delays that confused you. But today, if you look closely, you'll realize that every closed door. There are moments in life when the wait feels endless. You pray, you hope, you trust, and yet nothing seems to move. You check for signs, you look for progress. You try to convince yourself that maybe something is happening behind the scenes. But deep down, you feel stuck. You feel forgotten. You feel delayed. But today, I want you to hear something clearly. The delay was divine. It wasn't rejection. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't God turning His back on you. It was God protecting you from something you didn't see. You see, there were things you desperately wanted at one time, relationships you thought would be forever, opportunities you believed were meant for you, plans you were certain were going to work out. But God saw deeper. He saw hearts you couldn't read. He saw danger you couldn't sense. He saw outcomes you couldn't predict. There was a door you knocked on again and again, crying for God to open it. You waited outside it, you prayed in front of it, you asked God to let you in. But He didn't. Not because you were unworthy, not because you didn't pray hard enough, not because He didn't love you. He kept it closed because what was behind that door wasn't aligned with your purpose. It wasn't worthy of you. It wasn't safe for you. It would have broken you later in ways you couldn't recover from. So instead of opening the door, He delayed you. He slowed you down. He diverted your path. He hid you in a season of waiting, not to frustrate you, but to form you. Look back for a moment. Think about the things that didn't work out, the people who walked away, the jobs you didn't get, the places you couldn't stay, the friendships that faded, the dreams that collapsed. At the time, it hurt. It felt like loss. It felt like failure. It felt like confusion. You didn't understand why God didn't let it happen. But now, with a little distance, with a little healing, with a little maturity, you can see pieces of the truth. You're not who you used to be. Your mindset has changed. Your emotional strength has grown.
The night you prayed, something shifted. You may not have seen it. You may not have felt it. You may not have understood it. But the moment your heart whispered that prayer, heaven heard you. The moment your voice trembled with hope or fear or desperation, God listened. Your prayer didn't vanish into the air. It didn't float away unnoticed. It didn't get lost in the noise of life. No, your prayer went into motion the very moment you released it. You prayed from a place of pain, or maybe from a place of faith, maybe from a place of confusion, maybe from a place of surrender. But however you prayed, your words carried weight in the spiritual realm. There are prayers you prayed when your heart was breaking, prayers you prayed with trembling hands, prayers you whispered through tears on your pillow, prayers you repeated day after day until you finally stopped, thinking nothing was happening. But hear this truth. The moment you prayed, God began moving on your behalf, not always in the way you expected, not always in the timing you hoped, not always in a way you could see, but the answer was set in motion. Sometimes God answers immediately, but the answer takes time to reach you. Just like a seed planted in the ground, you don't see anything at first, but something is happening beneath the surface, even when the soil looks still. You prayed for healing, and God started restoring your heart even before you felt it. You prayed for strength, and God began growing resilience inside you. You prayed for direction, and God started closing the wrong paths so the right path would become clear. You prayed for a blessing, and God began preparing you for something greater than you imagined. There is no such thing as a forgotten prayer, not with God, not ever. You may have moved on. You may have forgotten what you asked for. You may have assumed that season of life is gone, but God didn't forget. He's the God who keeps track of every tear, every whisper, every longing of your heart. And some of the blessings coming to you now are not new requests. They are old prayers being answered in.
Have you been standing in front of a door for years, wondering if it will ever open? Have you prayed, hoped, and waited, only to feel the lock mocking your patience? Today, I want to tell you something. God is turning the key right now. That door isn't staying closed a moment longer than it should. The moment you've been waiting for, the breakthrough you've been longing to see, it's about to arrive. You may not feel it yet. You may not see it with your natural eyes, but spiritually, there is movement. There is alignment. There is a force at work that you cannot stop, cannot speed up, and cannot control. And that force is God's timing. Perfect, intentional, precise. Think back on all the times you knocked and nothing happened. The doors that stayed closed, the opportunities that slipped away, the relationships that never worked out, the prayers that seemed unanswered. You thought they were failures. You thought God had forgotten you. You thought maybe your dreams were impossible. But God was never absent, not for a single moment. Every closed door, every delay, every no was a part of His plan. Each one was shaping you, protecting you, preparing you for the door He is about to open now. And now, everything you prayed for, even the prayers you forgot, are aligning for that breakthrough.
That person you asked him to send, the opportunity you've been desperate for, the peace you've been longing to feel, it's all on its way. You can feel it stirring in the spiritual realm, even if your eyes haven't caught up yet. Sometimes God waits because He is perfecting the timing. Sometimes He waits because He's raising the standard. Sometimes He waits because He's protecting you from what you are not ready for or what would have hurt you. But now the preparation is complete. The seasoning is done. The time has come. Picture this, that door, the one that has seemed locked for years, is slowly beginning to shift. The key turns. A warm golden light spills into the room. Dust floats in the light like angels dancing. The air feels different. The atmosphere changes. And suddenly, you realize God's answer was always coming. It was never lost. It was never too late. This is your...
Take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you need to. Can you feel it? That subtle shift in the air? That stirring inside your heart? That quiet whisper in your spirit? That is the blessing you prayed for, moving toward you right now. It's coming faster than you expected, stronger than you imagined, and it is perfectly timed. There were moments in your life when you wondered if your prayers had vanished. You thought the universe had turned its back. You thought God had forgotten. But here's the truth. Nothing you ask for in faith is ever forgotten. Not a single prayer slips through the cracks. Not a single tear is wasted. And the blessing you've been waiting for? It has been making its way to you, step by step, moment by moment, carefully orchestrated in the spiritual realm. Think about the longing in your heart for a moment. That deep desire, that quiet hope, that prayer whispered in the dark when no one was around. That prayer, it was never too small, too weak, or too unworthy. God heard it. And as your heart has grown, as your spirit has endured, as your patience has been tested, the blessing has grown too, prepared to meet you at your new level. Sometimes blessings arrive in ways we can't yet understand. They don't always come in the package we expected. They may appear in forms we didn't plan for. But that is the beauty of God's timing. He sees the bigger picture. He knows what you need, what you can handle, and what will bring true joy. You may feel like nothing is happening. You may look around and see ordinary days.
Do not let doubt cloud your vision. Do not let fear slow your steps. Do not let impatience steal your joy. Stand firm in faith. Keep your eyes on the horizon. Keep your heart open. Because as sure as the sun rises, the blessing you prayed for is arriving. And when it does, you will understand why the wait was necessary. You will understand why God delayed. You will understand why some doors closed and why some seasons ended. Everything, every tear, every trial, every test was preparing you for this moment. And now you are ready to receive it fully, without fear, without hesitation, without doubt. So feel it, the movement, the shift, the divine alignment. It's not imagination, it's not wishful thinking. It's God, answering your prayer, rewarding your faith, restoring what you thought was lost, delivering what you thought was impossible. The blessing you prayed for years ago, the one you almost forgot, is here.
Look around. Can you see it? Can you sense the invisible threads weaving everything together? The prayers you whispered long ago, the tears you shed in silence, the nights you spent hoping and waiting. All of it is coming together now. The answer to your prayer, the one you almost forgot you asked for, is moving into perfect alignment with your life. There is a divine orchestration happening right now. Every person you've met, every challenge you faced, every detour and delay, it has all been a part of the plan to prepare you for this very moment. God has been aligning your path, arranging circumstances, and positioning the people who will help bring your prayer to life. You may have wondered why things didn't work out sooner. You may have questioned your faith. You may have asked, why is it taking so long? But now, all of those questions are about to be answered. The delay was never denial. It was preparation. It was protection. And now everything is falling into place. Think about the seasons you endured, the ones that felt heavy, lonely, or unfair. Every closed door, every disappointment, every setback was a piece of a puzzle. And now the pieces are moving, shifting, and finally locking into the perfect picture. What you once longed for, what you once dreamed about in silence, is about to manifest. Do you feel it in your heart? That sense of anticipation, that excitement, that deep knowing that something big is coming? That is not coincidence. That is God signaling that the answer is near. And not just near, it is arriving in a way that surpasses anything you could have imagined. Perhaps you prayed for peace when your life was chaotic. Perhaps you prayed for clarity when your mind was clouded. Perhaps you prayed for provision when resources were scarce. Perhaps you prayed for love, for connection, for breakthrough, or for restoration. Whatever it was, the universe has been moving in your favor, quietly, carefully, intentionally. And now, the alignment is visible. You are entering a season where everything starts to make sense. Doors that were once closed are opening. Opportunities that were once hidden are now revealed. Relationships that were fractured are healing. Paths that were uncertain are becoming clear.
This is it, the moment you have been waiting for. The prayer you whispered long ago, the one you thought time erased, the one you almost forgot. God is answering it now. Not a little, not halfway, not in a way you have to compromise for, but fully, completely, perfectly timed. You may have spent years wondering if your prayers mattered. You may have doubted whether God was listening. You may have thought that what you wanted was too big, too impossible, too late. But here is the truth. Every tear you cried, every night you stayed awake, every silent whisper to God, they were all heard. And today, they are being answered in ways that are bigger, brighter, and more beautiful than you ever imagined. Take a deep breath. Feel it. The air around you is charged with divine presence. Every delay, every obstacle, every moment of waiting was preparing this moment. God never wasted a single second of your journey. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every closed door, all of it was leading to this precise alignment. Look back for a moment. Remember the times you prayed with trembling hands, the times you prayed from pain, from hope, from desperation. Those prayers never went unanswered. They were being held in the hands of a God who never forgets, who never overlooks, who never misses a single detail. And now, the breakthrough is here. The blessing that once felt distant is arriving at exactly the right time. The doors that were locked are swinging open. The answers that seemed impossible are manifesting. The life you longed for, the peace you prayed for, the opportunities you dreamed of, all of it is being released to you. God's timing is perfect. His ways are higher than ours, and His answers often arrive in ways that surpass our imagination. What you prayed for in your darkest hour will now appear in your brightest moment. What you hoped for in silence will now unfold in the open, celebrated by your spirit. This is not coincidence. This is not luck. This is divine orchestration. The angels have been moving behind the scenes. Heaven has been aligning circumstances, people, opportunities, and events to bring your prayer to life. And today, the universe is bending in your favor. You may feel overwhelmed. You may feel unworthy. You may feel like you are not ready. But know